Welcome to the weekly chart review. It is Saturday, June 18th. Let's jump right into Forex, shall we? Okay. Starting with Aud Cad, there was a trade idea. I believe I set this one up earlier on in the week, and it seems to be doing pretty well. The only crappy thing about it is that big pullback that we've seen Friday. Now, I believe that I set this up here. Let me open up the last week's chart review actually, and then I'll double check, because I do believe that I had another trade in mind, and then I checked the charts midway through the week, and I noticed that it's going to be another pattern emerging. So let me just pop that up quickly. Okay, and Aud Cad right here. Where was it? Maybe the week before even, because I think I changed it midweek on this chart, and then, whoops, I'll just close it, no changes were made. And then we'll pop on to the review, so June 4th. Let's see what I did here. Now, it's possible I popped it on and then I just got rid of it, but one way or another, it was a trade opportunity that I saw is going to be changing. Yeah, right here. So it's still a trade idea. That's a potential pullback. But when I noticed that this kind of dipped a little bit lower, it was still bouncing off of this Fibonacci zone and started going right up. So what I did is I just kind of analyzed in the long term. And I'm like, okay, if I see a flip on a 4-hour time frame, you know, around this line, that's where I'll take the trade. And sure enough, the flip happened right after this candle, right where this doji formed on the 4-hour. So this would have been a very strong entry right there. All right. Only reason being AUD became very strong in the last week or so. And a colleague of mine did the research already, so I'll just read it off quickly, just so you're aware of what's going on. Right, so current cash rates as of today, AUD is 0.35, CAD is 1.5. All right, so when that was announced, what you saw are these kind of spikes to the upward momentum right there. Right, so CAD is just going to be short-term weak, and then it's going to turn around and be long-term strong. That's why I'm expecting a move up to this yellow, which, as you see on the daily, it is the it's right here. Right, it's going to be the Fibonacci retracement line 618. So around there is where I'm expecting the reversal to happen. Now, again, when it comes to something like this and picking it off out of thin air, so to speak, right, it's going to be something where I'm looking for an EMA reversal or EMA shift. Okay, so that's why, again, I believe that short term we might see this target get clipped, but as you see right now, it just kind of bounced off and quickly hit that 328 and then reversed hard on Friday's close. Right, so the equivalent of gaining 90 pips one day and then losing 90 pips the other day. Right, so quite the move right now happening with Aud Cad. I don't exactly expect a large target, just almost 300 pips on this one, but still worth looking at. But yeah, that's my Aud Cad in the long-term forecast. Like, I'm expecting a move up to here, and then as soon as it hits that area, it's going to go deeper down. Right, so it's even possible it's going to be something like that, but I'm not going to get too ambitious just yet, because it could just be pullbacks. As you see, it is going slightly deeper each time. Right, so this is kind of safety net and very strong potential to go that low. Right, with a 30 pip stop loss, we're looking at a very strong risk to reward ratio. Aud Chf. So this was crazy. Chf really kicked the pants off every pair when they announced their rates. Right, nobody expected Chf to actually raise interest rates by half a percent. Sorry. 0.5%, right? They never planned on it. It just kind of spontaneously happened. So that's where we saw all these nutty moves, right? Very strong to the downside. CHF becoming very, very bullish. All right, so even on Friday, right here, very strong close with 1.29% drop. But overall, I mean, June 16th to June 17th, within 2 days, it was 258 pips that dropped on this pair, right? So this was a very nice trade to jump in on. And like I was saying, EMA shift, but you see, this is the problem, because it did shift, and this would have been a very nice entry right here to jump in on that one. But you see, it entered, and then it would have been right at the stop loss. It's just, it was super volatile over that time frame. So this kind of sucked, actually, to gauge that entry. But because of the volatility, right, like as soon as it shot down here and went right back up, it'd be something very difficult to gauge as to when to jump in on this pair. So this is kind of a good example as to you know, a very difficult loss to take. Even though, you know, analysis is correct, it's just the entry and the stop loss itself is just not in the right spot, right? That's all it is. Because if we take it right at the bottom of that candle, like let's say we flip it to the 1 hour, okay? So what can we see 1 hour on that EMA switch, right? We'll just zoom in. So if that's the case, as the week progressed, right, because June 11th was when I finished this off the last time, right? So actually, this move already happened. Oh, never mind. Yeah, we're looking pretty good for that, actually, because if yeah, that's right. I did this chart up on June 11th, correct. And what that means is that this happened before that. So as I saw the drop coming, right, this is probably why I set it up there to be able to take the entry right off that purple going down. So actually, it wouldn't be something that would be a loss. It'd be something that would have been a potential break even, right? Because once I get at least that 100 pips, like it just would have triggered at that point. But even when it's around 75, I move my stop loss to break even. It's just good practice for me because again, you saw how this went, right? I only had a 30 pip stop loss, so that would have triggered stop loss, even though hard reversal right after that candle. Right, so within this, we would have to try to look for something that it would have bounced off of, and judging what we had here, there wasn't really an institutional to take a play off of, right? It was this imbalance first that got filled and then started going back down. So it looks like all these plays were off of this particular candle. The only trouble is the wick closed higher. Right, so if we take a look at the 30-minute time frame, this, you know, it's not typically a candle pattern I look for because that's just a very large engulfing candle, right? But as you see, even on the 30-minute time frame, it's not really rejecting off of anything. It's just kind of continuing on the move, right? So to predict that this would happen would have been very difficult in that specific spot. Like I knew where the play was going to happen. It's just pinpointing with that kind of accuracy would have been a little bit harder, I would say, at that point. Okay, and again, if you're uncomfortable taking 30 pip stop losses, if you move it to 60, easy profit still, right? Like we can slide this over because this is when the trade was taken and still in profit, right? So I'll flip that back to the daily and see what that looks like. So 64 pips. Let's see how 60 would have looked like. Winner, right? It wouldn't have triggered. 60 pips is fine. Risk to reward ratio is 6-to-1. You know, completely up to you, right? I was going for a deeper snipe, missed out on this move ultimately because of that. However, you know, lesson learned. It's maybe something that I will keep in mind to do 60 pip stop loss instead, especially for larger moves like this. Okay, so it's currently moving. I do expect this imbalance to be filled. As you can see, even on the 1 hour, like this is going to be, I'll draw it with the Gann box. This is going to be the target that we're going to be looking for it to pull back to. So it may not enter, it may not get back to the entry zone. Okay, but you know, it's a good potential, a good strong potential that it'll pull back to this area, right? So if you are currently in this trade, I'd be watching for an EMA shift on the 1 hour, and once that happens, that's maybe a good place to take a profit before, pulling back, and then possible entry again to go down, right? So lots of good moves to see here. But yeah, it was a nice setup actually. Just with the stop loss, it didn't quite work out. So I'll move it over and we'll see what happens with that. Okay. I'll just draw an X just so I know it's already been invalidated, right? Because I may forget next week. I wanna make sure I don't brag about having a trade go in my favor when I forgot that I moved this up already. All right, Aud Jpy. So here we go with this. First, way back when it was already done, move is finished. So this is why I projected it to kind of bounce off there. These are where we have spikes in volume, okay? That was my first projection for it to go down to the first level. But again, I'm looking for the EMA shift to be able to trigger. So again, terrible situation, right? Because it would have flipped right at the end of this candle. Entry would have been right, got to stretch that out a little bit so it's not covering. Entry would have been right at the end of this candle and then done, right? So very, very unfortunate. But yeah, maybe this one, it would have been a better trade to go off this zone rather than the top, right? So EMA shift, possible entry would have been even, yeah, I mean, it doesn't really matter, does it? Let's try the 1 hour, where would have been the better snipe to grab, right? So the first one would have been somewhere around here where the EMA shifted. I'll just pull it up a little bit more, right at the end of this candle. So it would have been potentially 146 pips in profit, so that's pretty good. That definitely would have been moved to break even and then dropped hard and then back in. So it seems to be hovering a little bit. It's right now, it's bouncing in between these two zones. So what I would be looking for, and as you see right now, it rejected off the black EMA on the 1 hour. So off the 4 hour, that's the white. Okay. Rejected off that, so good potential entry would be is if it drops on the 1 hour back down to this area right off the brown line. So that's the 618 on the 1 hour. If it drops back down to that zone, I still believe that this is going to be a very strong trend upwards. The only situation with this is JPY's interest rates also went up, I believe. The yen, like, it's still lower than AUD. It's at negative 0.1%, right? CHF is negative 0.25, so it was negative 0.75. Made it the biggest bearish interest rate. But now JPY is the second weakest. So again, the projection for this would be to bounce in between these volume zones for it to go back up, right? So that's kind of what I'm thinking will happen there. AUD Nzd is just too messy for me to be able to gauge what's happening. So let's check out even the 4 hour. Let's see what's on here. All right, NZD is definitely the stronger of the two pairs. As you see, kind of had a double top right here on the 4 hour. This one's slightly higher, but it's been dropping pretty hard, right? So the first area of contention will be this black line right there, and we'll see if it actually crosses or goes back up. But everything on the longer time frame charts is showing that it's going up. So it's going to take quite a bit of time for it to do a reversal. As you see now, like, everything is pointing up, right? So this could just be a very strong pullback. And if we're looking at it from a deep angle, let's grab the Fib Retracement right here, and we can even go from here to the top, right? So we're just at the 328, right? So strong potential chance that it'll continue. But if it does drop, as you can see where the volume is made already here, that would make a lot of sense. 618 retracement is just below it. Okay, so still not going to take a trade on this one. I don't like this currency pair. It's much more volatile than anything else. As you see, even when it goes up, it's a lot of ups and downs while the move is happening, right? So entry could be hard to snag unless you're able to snipe something like that, right? But then a pullback in the last minutes of Last hours of the day really sucks. Anyway, moving on, AUD USD. USD raised rates really high. And as you can see, the trade here was almost snagged. Oh, that sucks a little bit, but yeah, let's take a look, actually. Let's take a look as to what happened here. Okay, because if we go on the 4 hour, it missed entry by 4.3 pips. That's unfortunate. Right, I had that drawn up, I believe, on a 1 hour imbalance, right? 1 hour, no, 2 hour imbalance, actually. This was on the 2 hour time frame. It's not something I typically do, but when I saw this play right here, it was just too good to pass up. So that's why I was expecting a move back down to that area. But that's the unfortunate thing, right? Missed it out by 4 pips. It's just how it is, right? So imagine snagging that 200 pip run within 2 days. Not too bad, right? Still a 10-to-1. Stop loss wouldn't have even been a thing. But USD became very, very strong. So that's why I only put it up to the 618. And look, target met, done deal. Right? So it's a very good chance it's going to continue on its move to the downside. Okay? And with that, it's already started. Like this is the reversal point. I don't think that there's going to be anywhere else to snag it on the way down unless there's going to be some sort of pullback, right? Like it's happening now, but if I draw a miniature fib kind of within this zone, right, we see the potential pullback still could be that 618 right there, which is, yeah, the 618 of the larger Fibonacci. Right, so let me just double check actually, because that pulled higher than expected. So it was Fib Retracement. It would have been from here to here. Oh, so it only went to the 50%. So either way, right? When I drew it up from the previous one, from the low to the high, right? Because I was expecting this to pull up a little bit higher. It's still 50%. So what did I draw it from before? And I'm starting to wonder. Or did I just read it wrong? Either way, I didn't expect it to come much higher than that. That's kind of how it goes, right? It's a perfect move. It's just entry sucked on this one, that's all. So we'll slide that over. We'll just move it there. And yeah, we'll leave it up. Pretty close. Bitcoin. This is rough. Bitcoin is dying. It is dropping past every single point that I was expecting it to hit, right? So what I was saying is that this is as low as it could have went, and now we dropped to 18,000. So yikes. Okay, so what zone is it off of now? Because now this is invalid. Now we are down here. It bounced off. What did it bounce off on the daily? Let's see. Okay, we'll get rid of this fib. What did it bounce off on the daily? Right here. Right there, this candle. So I'm curious as to what is going on in this candle pattern. Let's switch the time frame to 1 hour. Came close, resisted off that area twice. Maybe 30 minutes is going to give me more information. No, just a little morning star. That's what did it in this very long hammer candle. Yeah, not really a fan of what's going on right now with Bitcoin. As far as it continuing to drop further, I'm kind of at a loss right now. I did not expect it to go even as low as it is right now, like 20,000. Maybe even 22,000 was kind of my threshold. I was expecting a pull up before it just tanked even harder. But now that we look at it, let's bring it up to the weekly actually. Let's see where we're at. So you can see right here, it's now, it kind of broke through these two weekly candles right now when it hit its peak the first time. And then it dropped down December 2017. So right now we are lower than the highs 5 years ago. Okay, that is not great for Bitcoin, right? It lost all of its gains within several months. And that's what, November? I think we had peak, yeah, November 1st, we had the peak, and we've lost 74% of Bitcoin's value within that time. So, I mean, this is the potential opportunity to grab a buy, right? But this is something that you grab, you wouldn't leverage because it's, unless you have thousands of dollars to spare. This isn't something that I think we've seen the bottom of yet, but it's been dropping so hard, we haven't even had a chance to recover. Like as you see here, it slowly started to trickle down week by week, but it did have its pullbacks, right? So as an example, we'll do the Fib, high to low, right? We hit the 328 area, and then here's the new high, and then here's the new low, right? So, all right, sorry. Here's a new high, new low. We popped to the 618. Let me just zoom in so it's a little bit more clear. Okay. So as you see, high right here, the low right there, 618 retracement, right? And then it dropped lower. So now we move it to the 618 and we drop it back down to the newest low, 618 retracement, and it kind of hovered and went lower, right? So same sort of situation right here on the weekly, back down to the low, and then it finally broke structure and started going up, right? But as it broke structure, let's take a look at this for a second, right? So from the lowest point to the highest point, 618 before a small pullback, it went a little bit lower but didn't break. Okay, so what we can see right now is high to low, right? And this is on the weekly time frame too, so just keep that in mind. High to low, you see it 618, it was a resistance area for that, went a little higher, and then it finally took off, right? So we haven't seen anything like this happen right now with these moves. Like look at this, there's no 618s to even consider, right, on the weekly time frame. Like we're looking all the way to the bottom now here, so I gotta draw that out, it's way too far. But now we draw that up here, because look, even if I take it to the first original low, which was right here, look, 328 continuation, very strong trend downwards. We move it up to, or we drop it down to the next low, 328 continuation, and then strong move downwards. Right now, this is where we're at. So judging from past behavior, the best goal right now for it to go up would be here before dropping further, right? Judging how all the moves have been happening over the last 7 months, that is potentially what I'd be looking at for it to pop back up to that area before going lower. Yeah, it's not great. Let's see where the black EMA looks like on here. Yeah, we crushed through it, right? It acted like a little area, like a magnet of sorts, and then it's done. Okay. But yeah, there's a good potential for it to come back to this area. It seems to be playing off the 328 on the weekly often. Even when you see it on the daily now, right? There wasn't, like if we take the Fibonacci, let's say from going here to this low, right? 328 from that area still, same thing. But now if we take this high, I'm running out of room. If we take this high right here, that 328 retracement to this low, right? We see 618 is in play several times, then it breaks up higher to the 786, and then just drops. Right, we see that there was lots of volume being collected around 328. So if I draw a volume bar between these 2 points, you could see right there, right in the center, that's where it's collecting. But a good way to tell would be before it started breaking upwards. Here's the strength of the volume. So even as it was breaking up, you could see that there's a very strong pull for it to be brought down lower. Okay. Again, I was optimistic. I was thinking that it's going to pull back and close these imbalances first before finishing down, but it didn't even break the 328s several times on the weekly before it crushed projections. All right, so for those with puts, I mean, congrats. That's a hell of a win, but it's been a rough go, right? Like we are down to, we've hit a low of 17,500, and right now it's at 18,500. So small pull up, but yeah, I don't see this going too bullish in the next little while, actually. Like it might, if it does, I don't see us breaking 50,000 for a few years until we hit that high again. Lots of people projecting 100,000 by end of 2021, weren't they? Well, unfortunately, that didn't happen. Now let's move on to Cad Chf. Holy Toledo. This was beautiful, wasn't it? Look at this snag. Now, I'm just going to move it over slightly because, you know, I drew it out here. But unfortunately, like again, I did this chart up on the 11th, and this was 8th and 9th, right? So I can't chalk that up as a win. It dropped much faster than I expected. I thought we'd see a slow pull up before going down. So, you know, not so fantastic. It's too bad, right? If we left it somewhere around there, it would have been a great win. But if we take a look at the 1 hour time frame, right, the last time it was in this area was there, right? The original candles, and then it pulled down, did a bunch of zigzags, right? So first, this could have been a potential drop-off point, right, for an entry, and then where would I have looked for stop loss? I wouldn't have, right? Like this isn't a trade I would have entered. I don't like entering on consolidations unless it's hitting a very specific point, right? So unfortunately, it didn't pull up back to the point that I was expecting. It just kind of hit this area and tanked, right? And that's exactly when CHF received the news that they were increasing interest rates, and down it goes. Okay, so it's just kind of how it went, and yep, so that's invalidated. That entry was not taken. Would have been pretty good though. As far as where it's heading now, let's take a look at the daily to see if there's going to be any potential pullback zone. It's still climbing, right? Like CAD is still stronger than CHF. This is just kind of an impulse. So what I can see right now is this morning star combination here is very valid. Let's take a look at smaller time frames, actually. Maybe there's something we'd be able to pick up here. Well, actually, before that, I'll just draw the line to see where we're bouncing off of. Line, I said. Right there. So let's take a look on the 4 hour, okay? That's where we're currently, the bottom hit. It seems probably it's just the volume that's what it's snagged up. So let me grab all that consolidated volume, and yeah, it's just slightly above there, which, as you can see, it dropped below and right above it. So if I take this and I'll just draw it right on the tip of that volume volume tool, right, here we go, right in the middle. So what does this tell me? Boom. Nice entry. Beautiful, beautiful institutional setup right there. Let's see on the smaller time frame if there's anything we can snipe. What's that doji in the 30-minute? Nothing too spectacular. So yeah, it looks like the 4 hours definitely in play, unless the 2 hours anything specific. Oh, even 2 hours, a little bit better. That is much nicer. That'll give us a stronger entry potential, right? So if it hits that volume bar, I would say because of this one, how deep is the? Oh yeah, I mean the entire range is only 30 pips, so I would do 40 pip on this one. Let's draw that out now, actually. Okay, that's a very nice candle pattern to go off of. So we take our long position. I'm going to do it right here at the top of the volume range, going right back up to this yellow, because again, overall, the Canadian dollar is going to be stronger than CHF, the Swiss. Even though that they did increase interest rates, they are still in the negative, right? Canada is, I believe, 1.5. So we'll see how that climbs in the next given weeks. But this is what I'm projecting, right? Almost a 10-to-1 ratio off that. 38 pips is reasonable, 40 pips stop loss on this. I do not believe we'll hit a lower low, and if we do, it's only going to be slight. So yeah, good potential trade entry. We'll keep an eye on this guy. All right. And let's just go over here because I think that one's still valid. Aud Chf. I'm going to unclick that one. Aud Jpy. Unfortunately, that was a miss. I'm just going to delete this guy and this guy. Even though that was a nice win, it's done. And we'll delete the volume bars. We'll redo this next week. We'll figure out where it's going to go after this consolidation. All right. Cad Jpy. Now, I just believe we've hit our retracement point. Let's double check. Oh, pardon me. Let's double check. Pinned off the 618 area right there. And now it looks like it's consolidating with the 4 EMAs there. So I am expecting a strong move upwards still. There is no institution. Well, this is on the 2-hour. Let's take a look on the daily. Right? Yeah, so perfect example of a reversal right there. We have the parallel candle setup, and if you've noticed that in the past, like parallels, the next one is typically green or red, right, depending on what's following the color. So if it closes green, the next one, strong potential to be green, right? Parallel candles, if it closes red, strong potential, next one will close red, and so on, right? Parallel candle, close green, strong potential to go green the next time. Okay, so it's just kind of how it goes. And judging how we had that close on the daily, this is going to be a very strong entry to be able to take it higher, right? So on the 4-hour, nice, that's not a star, that's just a little bit of a hammer. But yeah, this was a very nice rundown, and finally it switched on a close right here on the 4-hour. So very good potential trade entry. As you see, EMA right here. That's a shift. Oh, even though it's so small, it's a shift, folks. Right? Just wanted to show you that and zoomed in. So good potential trade entry, and I'll just draw it on the daily because that's going to be something that makes a little bit more sense. Okay, and this is what I'm thinking. Probably entry as markets open, or if there's a pullback, I'd wait until it gets back to that zone. But yeah, this one I would say maybe would have to go down to the 4-hour. Where would I want to take a stop loss here? Probably at the bottom of these candles right here, these wicks. I don't expect it to drop below that after shifting EMA on a 4-hour, but you never know, right? It's the same kind of idea when you're going up. If you have any type of a pullback, you know, you can have something like this, but every time on the 4-hour the EMA shift, it doesn't, like even here, right? You can see it's shifted, but it's kind of going sideways, still going up though, right? And then shifts down, it's done. But as soon as it shifts, it tends to move in that direction for a little bit, right? The only unfortunate thing would be is if we get a large red candle right after. Because if you take a look at these two candles, for example, right? I'll pop a replay here, right? So that one doesn't exist. Okay. Oh no, so never mind. You see, it's not switched right here on this pair. It's still slightly below the red. So yeah, there's a very good chance that this trade will work out as it's taken on the open. Yes, exit replay mode. Okay, so yeah, let's go with that. That looks pretty good to me, right? Good strong retracement. Even if we grab this fib, right, we have the potential target exactly where I drew the TP. It's like I know. Yeah, kind of a dork laughing at my own joke or whatever that was, but hey, doesn't matter. I can say whatever I want within reason. Okay, so Cad Jpy looks pretty good. I think I'll be grabbing that entry at open Sunday afternoon. Okay, Chf Jpy, what do we see here? Bonus, look at this, right? What a beautiful move. If, again, we finished this off on the 11th, right? I said, hey, it's pulling back. It's a good potential time to get out. Gains already been made. Look, and this is what I'm talking about. Look at on this 4-hour, okay? Entry, right? Even here, a potential entry when it's snagged again. But look, from here, not a single time do the EMA switch until this area. Okay, and that area, And that's where I put the target, right? That's where I would have done the exit after that big of a gain. 754 pips, guys. That's 11 to 1 risk to reward ratio. Could have been even tighter, right? But you know, like you saw before, if you make it too tight, it's a potential you'll miss out on the entire run. If you make it too large, you know, you just have a smaller RR overall, but it's still very good. Okay, now what we see here is, again, CHF became very strong on the 16th, right? And this is where we see this move happen. And yeah, it crushed it even higher. So this, if you look at it, I mean, pretty crazy, right? 1,000 pip gain. And how long? A month, I believe it is, right? So entry, let's say May 18th, right? If we grab that one, otherwise the EMA shift would have been around here. So 31 days, and it hit 1,000 pips. Not a bad move. I'm going to put it back though, because again, like I said, right, I would have had the exit right there. Right? Had the exit right there. That was 895. No, it was around here. So one way or another, right? It was, no, we didn't get out that low. Well, whatever the case is, it was somewhere there. Okay. Right, so this is a definite win. Very, very good trade. Pulled back. Where did it pull back? I think that just looks like a 328 pullback. If we analyze it, yeah, just, right? So if it pulled back there, it's a good chance that it's going to go higher, right? If it kind of rejected off there the first time, it broke through the second, but it formed my favorite pattern right there, the two parallel candles, right? Like, what was I saying? Right? A very good chance it'll be green. Oh no, this one was red. What a bummer, right? Doesn't happen every time like this one. It came close, but it didn't happen every time. It happens often, but not every time, right? Two parallel candles, green right after. Two parallel candles, green right after. Two parallel candles, a bit of a doji, but that's tiny, right? Like I'm thinking more of the larger candles. These guys are, you know, 45, 50 pips. So yeah, very nice trade, Chf Jpy. I'm kind of out of that. No FOMO, guys. Don't jump in on the trade when it's already moving, okay? Unless there's a strong pullback and we can analyze it again. But for all intents and purposes, this is done. Check mark for the win. Let's analyze DXY. Actually, we need to look where the dollar is headed. Now, as you can see, it keeps making new highs, and this is, well, there's nothing really wrong with that, but it's really affecting stocks. Okay, and I'll get into that on the next video. But right now, what I see is that the stronger the dollar becomes, the weaker the stock market becomes. Right? Not great. Look at Ethereum. It dropped below 1,000. Holy! Where are you going? Below $1,000. Man, imagine buying NFTs at this point. Yeah. I'm actually kind of lucky. I don't have a lot of cryptocurrency that I jumped in on, but yeah, like look, we haven't seen it this low since, I mean, the 2018 highs, I guess. So what kind of rejection did we see 2018? Goes from there to the absolute lows, down 94%. What does 94% look like here from the high? Yikes. Down to $280. Oof. Hey, if it drops that low, I'm definitely going to be snagging it up at this point. I learned my lesson. I can have a 20 to 1 run if I hold it for a little while. Right? But right now, this is painful to watch. As we see, though, it is... where did I draw this from? Yeah, I drew from... Where did I do this inverse? All right, okay, from this high to this high, and then the lowest point in between there, and that's where I'm drawing it from. It will go higher eventually, but it might take a little while. So it looks like the next point of rejection is going to be this purple line. So possibly around that $780-800 mark. Oof. Yeah. Not interested in taking this. Look how it looks like on the daily. There hasn't been an EMA switch in how long? 74 days. Oof. That's pretty rough. Yep. That's quite the bear run. All right, let's move on. Euro AUD. Euro raised interest rates. They're at 0 right now, I believe, and so did AUD. So again, in the long term, I'm expecting this to still be bearish. Trouble is right now I can't really judge an entry. Like it's been bouncing around this yellow fib channel for a little while. I'm going to delete this white. It's invalid now. And volume, we had that there. No point in keeping it. This is the ultimate low. So let's see where this will pull back to. 50%. I mean, we've kind of hit that. It's not breaking up any higher. It doesn't seem to want to break through this right now. So if we draw a ray, we might be able to snag a potential entry when it kind of hits that area once again. It doesn't look like it wants to go much higher, but I do believe that it will be dropping. So let's say potentially to snag a trade around this area up to that 0.5 again, so 74 pips, a little high. Like I said, 60 is kind of the threshold, right? So drop that a little bit lower, right down to that past fib line right here, 880 pips to gain with a 14.3 risk to reward ratio. Yeah, not too bad. I can see not a move like that happening once again, but something like this. This will be pretty, you know, 700, almost 800 pips, pretty reasonable to see once again. Yeah. Yeah, I can see that happening. It's been bearish for a very long time. Okay, so that's a good area for entry. Eurocad. Look at this. Oh my gosh. What a great snag that was. We determined the lows, right? We determined the lows here that happened. And we'll flip that up. I believe, now, let's see. I believe that, yeah, we had the trade going on here. And because I saw it coming back to that zone, like, yeah, another potential entry for the same kind of gain. It's bouncing between two areas of support and resistance. So I'm like, yeah, you know what? We got one win. Let's try and go for another one. Let's see what we look like on the 4 hour. Pretty good. Still the same area, still the same type of valid trade entry. Maybe a deeper stop loss, but yeah, I was liking this. A very nice trade setup. So currently, let's see, currently in 247 pips in profit. Very nice. All right, let that keep running. Euro CHF. So as you see, CHF made big institutional candles in play. Or not institutional, sorry, imbalances. These would be the institutionals, right? So like we drew up before, as you see, this was a little bit of volume right here. It didn't actually drop below those lows, but it formed my favorite candle pattern, like I'm saying. Boom, right there. So let's see what that looks like on the 1 hour. More of a fractal on the 1 hour. That's all right. On the 2 hour, that's better. Look at that. 2 hours seem to be very good in play recently. Okay, so if we take Fib Retracement, so, you know, just an example. We had the high here, then we had the low here. Here's a deeper retracement, and then it dropped. Okay, so now what we do is we take this one, because that was the deep retracement, draw it to the lowest point, and I'm expecting a move. As you can see, 618 is right in the center of that big imbalance, right? And sure enough, it'll be closed when it kind of hits that area. So once that happens, either we can take a buy going up from this point, although it's going to be pretty choppy. I'm expecting something like this to happen, maybe a quick move down before it comes up again, and then a little bit of volatility here, right? Potential strong move down once again. Yeah, like Euro is going to be slightly stronger than CHF, but I think that's just going to be short-lived, right? It has a big gap to fill, and I believe that'll be closed quicker or sooner rather than later, just because of how large it is. And I mean, we can go gap hunting right now and see what I'm talking about. See what the previous patterns looked like. Whoa, we don't need that. That's yucky. All right, let's see. Okay, like this one, for example, was that ever filled? Yeah, it just took a while, right? So big gap formed right here, right? About 50 pips, and you can see the center of it, or just slightly above, was right in this area. So that looks like it took about a few months to be able to close that off. 62 days, so 2 months. Okay, but very nice candle pattern there. Where else can we snag something? Right, on the way up. See, this one was done very quickly. So it was a big move up. It pulled back down to that area and kept climbing, right? So this gap was 31 pips, not as big, right? But now we formed a gap of over 100 pips. So that's definitely going to be seeing a pullback, right? So as you can see, from top of the candle to the bottom of the candle, it's 192 pips. Like, that is big, okay? Big deal. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm expecting for this move. And I would be, if this is going to be a missed entry, then this is definitely the entry I'm going to be looking for. You know, probably up to there, 62 pips, 60 pips, around that, and then dropping it lower right here to the black, which is a support line. So 6 to 1 with a higher stop loss, pretty reasonable. Euro GBP. Kind of hit a high right there, now bouncing off of the Fib channel lines and also the EMA. It's kind of acting as a bit of a support. But very volatile candle moves, so I'm not going to even do that one up. Euro. So I think I did mention this before. I was expecting, yeah, so I drew my up arrow where it was going to happen around this area. So, you know, not too bad. It was still right, just a little early, right? And I do believe I had a trade that I worked out from that point. Man, that would have been great if I held on to that one for just over a month, right? But my whole thing was, if I saw the reversal, I got out, right? We don't know how deep that could be, and reversal happened around here, so that was it. Got rid of the trade, and then it consolidated a little bit and then took off, right? So even though it was in profit, to lose out on, let's see, to lose out on like 250 pips because potentially it could go higher, that's not something I was willing to risk at the time. So got out, but yeah, what a beautiful climb. Like, you could see I was expecting it to hit that point, just wasn't sure if it was going to happen this run or not. So that would have been 1,100 points, 1,100 pips to gain. I mean, if at the EMA switch, right, about 944 right there. That would have been gorgeous, right? And now look how it happened. Oh, parallel candles, you know, closed up higher, and then it never shifted back on the 4 hour until here, right? So even if I would have potentially grabbed it right at the end of this guy, stop loss would have been pretty deep, right? Like, I wouldn't be expecting it to just keep climbing. Like, I know the next candle would be pretty reasonable, but to hold it at a, you know, 40 pip stop loss, even at the white EMA for a few days, it's choppy. I would just be watching those EMAs to see if they shifted again. But yeah, what a beautiful run. What a beautiful run. Kind of curious now. Let's load. What's the longest chart I have? The 21st. It'll definitely be in on, I think, my May 8th chart review. It's very possible that'll be there. Let's see, Euro Jpy. Do I still have it here? Oh, that's a 5-minute. Yikes. Oh yeah, I do. Okay. Yeah, see, there it goes. That's where I was projecting the move. So a little too early. But then, like I said, I drew it up a little bit later, and it made sense for the climb to happen at that point, right? So the arrow got shifted to there. So yeah, I expected this climb to be a little bit too early, right? So the first run was about 300 pips or so. Not too bad in April. Yeah, I was a month off. It's okay. It still happened. It's just, again, I'm not going to be setting a stop loss of 340 pips or 350 pips just to make sure I get the climb of 2 to 1. Like, that's not worth it for me. Okay, but yeah, it was done, and that's it. Now we move on. Euro Nzd. Oh, and again, from Euro Jpy, I don't think that this is going to be dropping any further. I have a feeling we're going to be making higher highs as every JPY pair, as you've seen, right? So, but as far as playing this one, there's much better JPY pairs to grab. Cad Jpy looks really good right here. Just had an EMA switch. Chf Jpy, I mean, can't grab that anymore. It's kind of in the middle of the run, but that worked out very well. But yeah, anyway, let's move down. We were at Euro Jpy, Euro Nzd. See, these big wicks is something I'm not a fan of. 4-hour time frame, daily time frame, yuck, right? I mean, the only saving grace would be if, now that I see this 2 parallel setup, if we have another, well, let's see how long it's going to go from that volume bar. Yeah, that's too big. Not a big fan of that one. I do believe that NZD is going to be dropping, but it's a good potential when I see like right here, almost it shifted down, but it's starting to pull up. So it looks like this imbalance is going to be what's filled first before going lower, right? So if this is a trade that you're thinking of taking, it's 100 pips, like it's still too much. What would be even reasonable, like something here? No, it's too messy. I don't want to be jumping in on this trade. It would have to be on a lower time frame, and look at this, it's so gross. Yeah, I'm not a fan of this one. Euro USD. Did we do what we expected? No, we did not. I expected it to go a little higher before dropping, and it just dropped, right? Just dropped. So it's okay. Not entered, not missed, not a big deal. However, it did make a new low, right? It kind of bounced off that area and started climbing. And which candle pattern we form? My beautiful parallels right there. So good potential that this is going to climb at open. Yeah, we'll see how that goes. It's still strong potential that it can come up to this area based on not making a new low. But if it does make a new low, this trade's invalid. Gbp Aud, bouncing off that yellow line right now. Broke through the EMA, but we're making higher highs, so yeah, not interested. This would have been pretty good to get into though, but what a large candle, right? Even though it bounced off that area a few times, like it's, what are we looking at? 125 pips, like for a stop loss? No thanks. It's a little too deep for me, right? But even as you see, it wouldn't have had to been that much. It could have just been the 60. 60 would have been reasonable, right? But very risky because you could see how big a candles and how big a wicks this created. So potential trade, but it's done. Gbp Cad. Let's see on the daily what I drew up here. All right, so I was look at this move, exactly what I was expecting. What banana, oh my goodness. Exactly what I was expecting too, right? I drew it based off of this one, this high to this low, right? Where we had the play in between a few lines. So now it's playing off a higher line, but oh my goodness. Let's see, I really want to measure this now on the daily. Okay, we had the run from here to here, the lowest point, 1,847. Okay, from here to here. 1,887. I'm off by 10 pips. It's not too bad. Yeah, that's pretty crazy. Holy. Let's see how interest rates go for GBP, though. I'm not good off memory. Let me read that off. 1.25 and CAD is 1.5. So it's like a strong pair against a strong pair. You know, we could be seeing a lot of consolidation for the next little while. And if it does drop, it's going to be slow. Oh, excuse me. If it does drop, it's going to be a slower move. Gbp Chf. Yeah, I'm expecting this to go up. This was just kind of a temporary move, I believe, for CHF, especially with this pair. But as you can see, it's been dropping all the time. Like, it does deep retracements, but it does drop overall. So I'm going to stay out of that. Gbp Jpy, what a crazy wick. Look at this. Bounced right up. Has it made a new high? Yes, it has. So what was the retracement value? This is what we want to take a look at. Most recent low to most recent high. Wick right through the 618 and back up it goes. So that would seem to be a valid, let's see, drawn up for the trend extension. Right, so here to here to here, right, that area right there, drawn up the zone, so potential gain all the way up there. I mean, it's possible. Let's see what it looks like on the weekly, long term. Oh yeah, it's definitely possible. We've hit almost 200 yen per GBP. Oh yeah, that's definitely possible. And look, that aqua line goes right through my red zone right there, so definitely potential for it to go that high. Holy. And how do they move the last times? See, this is the thing, guys. If you really want to know what these signify, like within the weeks, take a look as to when it actually started, right? So this one would have been a sharp drop down and then reversal. So October 13, 2024 seems to be where, you know, that break kind of broke and started going to the upside. You know, right here, what happened in July of 2007 or 2007, right, between GBP or the yen, because it dropped hard. Either the yen got very strong or the British pound tanked. Got very weak very quickly. Right, and as you can see, that was kind of housing market crash, but that didn't have anything to do with Britain or Japan. That was more of a United States problem. Because even as US went into a recession, Canada was just like, yeah, we didn't screw ourselves over here, so yeah. There wasn't anything like predatory lending, but banks did tighten up and create that threshold, right, for what people can afford. Anyway, moving on, let's see, Gbp Nzd. Not a huge fan of NZD pair, so I'll move on. Gbp Usd. Yeah, this just keeps going down. Down, down, down. Had a bit of a recovery here. Very similar to like what NASDAQ looks like from here. Like this area going all the way down. Almost. Anyway, NZD Cad. Very similar to Gbp USD, isn't it? But NZD Cad, you know, both strong currencies right now. It's going to be fighting against each other, so I'd sit out. Nzd Chf. Look at that. Kind of formed that parallel spot right there. This is a very strong opportunity for a buy. Like I said, favorite parallels right there. I mean, that one was good, but this one's better because it's hitting off a resistance zone. So very good chance to get a buy out of this. Something in the range of, let's see, if market opens now. Where's my long position? If the market opens right on target right here, yeah, you know, 45 pips isn't unreasonable. I would say maybe even 50. Drop it to that and then How high do we want to take this? Not very high. It'll probably just be around that purple. It seems to be pulling back pretty hard. So a 2.5. It's not a fantastic trade, to be honest with you, but pretty good for the short term, right? That gap needs to be filled. It'll pull back up, and again, if it fills and the EMAs don't shift, potential to take it even higher. Okay, I'll draw that up 2.5. Might just be a quick little day trade. Nzd Jpy had its reversal. Now it's going back up. Nzd Usd, kind of hard in between these two. They're both strong currencies, but as you see, we've made a lower low. So what we do is take that Fibonacci a little bit lower. I was expecting a move up to this area originally, but maybe that's out of the question now. USD Cad winner, done. That trade, taken earlier on that imbalance, it hit perfectly and up it went, right? So what I was saying before, it's it really varies, right? There's positions that I know are going to be a lot stronger, like you see this imbalance right here on the 4-hour. It's where is a good example where we had those things before, like this, right? There's really what's taken me up to this. There's really no imbalance. It's not an institutional either. It's just a potential, right, for where the trade is going to go up to. That's why I leave room for a larger stop loss and I say EMA shift. But when it comes to, even this one, resistance zones, support zones, whatever, this is something where we wait for a switch, right? Where it is an institutional trade, it'll be something like this guy, right? Where what did I just do? I don't know what I just did. Anyway, we'll see up later on, but whatever. What was I getting at? Institutional, it's going to be something like this, right? You see this big green candle fall by the red one. That's why the pullback has a very good chance of coming back to that area, right? And I take the wick and all. So either we're going to hit that area, as you see, it's coming real close, okay? Did it hit? Not quite yet, right? Because that's where I'm expecting it to go. But it's a possibility that it's going to reverse even quicker. But as you see, that's why here I can make a tighter stop loss. Unfortunately, just because the size of this candle, it doesn't really allow me to make a smaller stop loss. I want to make sure it's the entire thing plus a little bit extra, right? Just to make sure it doesn't break out. So 70 pips would be for this guy. Okay, but for something like USD Cad, right, where I can clearly identify the imbalance and I know it's going to be pulling back to that area, that's what I would call a snipe, and I would enter right on that mark, right? And the only reason I set this lower is because that's the entire, including the wick of this candle plus a little bit of wiggle room, right? So that was my basis for that trade here. And yeah, this is a beautiful win. It's about 500 pips. Yeah. Well, we got out there, so we got out there. But a 10-to-1. Beautiful win. Beautiful win. And I'll unmark that right now because I'm not exactly sure where else it'll be going. So that's done for now. Done deal. Okay. USD Chf. So here we go. Right? Good example. Where I predict it's going to come up to a certain point based on a 618 retracement. Is there any basis off that? Not really. Was there any basis off it pulling down from this area? No, not really. Right? Like if we take a look on the 1 hour, it's just, or sorry, that's the 4 hour. If we take a look at on the 1 hour, right? There's no specific spot that it shows it that it wants to pull back to. Here, what it's showing me is that made a large imbalance. So that's going to need to be filled at one point, right? If it continues going down, then that's going to be a target. Once it starts going up, that's going to be my target entry for a sell. But right now we are in a retracement mode. Okay, so we didn't quite hit that area as expected, but we haven't gotten lower, right? So it's a good sign that this probably wants to come up higher to this area. And if it breaks through that, then we're going higher. right? That's what it essentially means. And being USD and Swiss franc, it's a definite possibility, right? I have a feeling it's because CHF released their rates and it got very strong in the short term. USD Jpy just been crushed. I'll switch that back to the 4-hour so we can see a little bit better. Look at this. Just in like 2 days, right? And what a crazy move. Drop down and then gain 350 pips. So if you like USD Jpy, that's a fantastic trade right there. But again, where is it going to bounce off from? There isn't any logic as to where it's pulling down to, right? So if we see here, these were just kind of slow gains. There's nothing that's drawing there, no volume to speak of, unless we go further back in the past. But as you see here, it's really, there's nothing, right? Like it could have been drawn right here to the middle of the imbalance that was formed, but it didn't quite close it off and just went higher. So yeah, there's going to be better opportunities to take stronger trades, but right now what I see is that there's better setups in other pairs. Silver, right? Like here, what am I going to go off of? There's really nothing to take in as far as this is concerned. Like in the long term, yes, I'm expecting move upwards, but in the short term, it's been dropping. So I'd rather just avoid it. We haven't made a new low. It's kind of bounced off this area, but look, EMA shift on the 4-hour just happened, so there's no sense. All right, gold looks similar. I thought about taking a trade here, but as you see, even odd entry, it started getting really screwy and choppy, so this is invalidated. Not really something I like taking a trade on, right? You need to have larger stop losses for gold, and at the same time, it's in consolidation, right? So even though entry would have been pretty decent around this area based on, I would have said this candle right here, it went deeper. Like this rejection was based off this candle, this rejection was based off this candle, and then the structure just broke right here. XTI oil, oh my goodness, exactly where I predicted it would return to. I even drew a box. How crazy is that? All right, so yeah, I would say extremely strong potential for a buy. Yep, just leave it at that. All right, folks, that takes care of Forex pairs and a little bit of extra, with Bitcoin, Ethereum, and oil. It is a little bit of a longer session, but thanks for sticking it out, and I'll see you next week.